Hello, and thank you for tuning in today. This is a milestone week as Soul CPR Healing Out Loud has reached its 50th episode. And I want to thank my loyal listeners for your support and for sharing the show with others, and for those who found us and are finding guidance now. I thank you all for subscribing on the platform of your choice and for those amazing ratings and reviews that help us reach more hearts and inspire future broadcasts. I'd also like to give a shout out to all the team at Bold Brave TV for hosting the show and supporting me on this journey that I have to say, a bit intimidated to embark on last year, but it has been very rewarding in every sense, especially to John, my producer, and to Dan, who's always with me behind the scenes in the Long Island studio, trying to keep us up and running despite our geographical distance and the occasional tech issues. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. And to my clients who've allowed me to share their stories to help illustrate ideas and problem solving techniques and strategies for you, my audience. And also to the numerous guests that I've had on the show who have been here and been so open and vulnerable, whose trials and triumphs have been inspirational for us all. And in these previous 49 episodes, we've talked about everything from divorce and death to diagnosis and domestic abuse and dating. That's a lot of D words, isn't it? And we've also had topics like mindfulness and mental health and mind shifts, body awareness, and much, much more. And we're only really getting started. In today's episode, while I'm feeling a lot of love and gratitude for all of you, I wanted to talk about something that comes up often with my clients, which is love and how to approach romantic love. And I think one of the key elements that gets left out of a lot of conversations is the how to. And last week, if you were watching episode or listening to episode 49, when I had my lovely guest Charlotte, we talked about modern day love versus classic day love, meaning my generation, but where we still had a lot in common when it came to the personal issues that we brought into our romantic partnerships. And so we were calling that the modern versus the old fashioned. So if you haven't listened to that episode, please go back and do that. Now, when it comes to finding love and the how-tos, I find that there is confusion in pop culture terminology about manifestation. And I've led a seminar before called Manifest Your Man. So I really want to get clear on this manifestation and magical thinking. And I'd like to clear it up. You may have heard things said like what you fear will appear, or what you think about, you bring about. You may have heard of The Secret, which is a book and a movie, and it's all about what is called the law of attraction. And I've spoken about some of these things previously on the show myself, but today I'd really like to get really clear and really real, shall we? So what is manifestation and what is magical thinking, and is there a difference? Well, at its core, manifestation is the idea that thinking positively about a desired outcome and imagining it vividly, really visioning it and believing it will happen can make it become a reality, make it come to fruition. And as I mentioned, you may have heard of the book and film The Secret, which is about the law of attraction and manifesting outcomes in life. And we'll talk more about that. Bottom line is there is no real secret. There is science behind it. But what's left out of the secret is that you have to put action with it. So what is magical thinking? According to Medical News Today, magical thinking is when a person believes that specific words, thoughts, emotions, or rituals can influence their external world. For example, magical thinking might include worrying that something bad will happen to a person if you do not wish them well. Now, psychologists would say that superstitions are a form of magical thinking, like wearing your lucky game day jersey or your team won't win. Now, even some symptoms of OCD are associated with magical thinking. And that can, means it's taken the form of an anxiety-driven ritual, right? Now, of course, young children are still learning about how the world works around them. So they may assume that their internal and external worlds are more closely connected than they actually are. So they may believe that something bad happened to a family member just because they were angry at them. So you see how it can be dangerous to have a magical thinking mindset. So manifesting and magical thinking may be hard to distinguish, and we're going to get to this as it applies to relationships soon. So when manifesting anything, you cannot be attached to a particular outcome. Instead, it's about being open to things coming to you in ways that you do not expect. So if you have too many expectations of how you want events to unfold, you can kind of get into the territory now of magical thinking. So it can get blurry in there between manifesting and magical thinking. Manifestation is the idea, again, that through these focused thoughts, beliefs, and actions, that's the key. It's not a secret. It's the key that you can bring about specific desires and goals or outcomes into reality. So it involves clear goal setting. You have to know what it is that you want to achieve to manifest it. It also involves this positive thinking and visualization. So focusing on that desired outcome and acting as if it is already true, right? That fake it till you make it, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. Taking action, implementing strategies and behaviors that align with your goals to move you towards that successful outcome. So there's no woo-woo manifestation happening. You've decided what you want. You're taking steps to get there. You're using positivity and optimism to move you towards that goal. But it's the action that's the difference. Now, manifestation draws on concepts like self-efficacy, optimism, as I mentioned, the power of positive thinking. All of these, which have some scientific backing and have been proven in psychological studies. For example, someone who wants to, let's say, manifest a promotion at work, they may focus on their skills and accomplishments, and they go ahead and visualize themselves in that new role. Okay, that's how they're using the visualization. But what they're doing, the action that they're taking, is they're going ahead and they're educating themselves. They're seeking opportunities to start improving their knowledge and their performance. That's helping move themselves towards the possibility of that promotion. Vision boarding is a great example of visualizing your goals so that you can take actions that align with those goals. It tends to be what I call a guide for your subconscious. It's like setting a GPS for your life. Here's my roadmap. This is where I want to arrive. And by having that visual representation of your goals in front of you every day, you tend to make decisions and choices that are aligned with those goals to help get you there. Now, as opposed to that, magical thinking is the belief that unrelated events are casually connected despite the absence of any really link between them, often with a reliance on sort of illogical explanations, or it is more reliant on the supernatural, if you will. So magical thinking gets a little more woo-woo, if we want to use that term. So this often can be seen in superstitious beliefs, believing that certain actions or thoughts can directly influence outcomes without any logical connection. Like the black cat crosses the road, I'm going to have bad luck. I broke a mirror, 7 years of bad luck. And start waiting on the calendar. And every time something goes wrong in your life, it's because I broke the mirror. Or lack of action, relaying on that belief alone without taking concrete steps to achieve the desired outcomes is part of magical thinking. There's no action involved. You're just leaning on that belief for everything to happen for you. And that involves basically then ignoring logic and any evidence that would contradict your belief. So when we think about it, magical thinking can be normal in childhood, right? It's kind of part of childhood development, but it can also be a symptom of certain mental health conditions, as I mentioned before, like OCD, or it can become a coping mechanism. I've read about people believing that seeing a specific color will even bring them good luck, or that simply wishing for something will make it happen without any effort. These are examples of magical thinking. Now, the main problem with non-clinical magical thinking, the everyday magical thinking that you or I may engage in, is that it leaves out one of the primary steps for obtaining what we really want in life. And I hope by now you know what that is. It's the doing. It's taking the action. It is time for our very first break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about an article that I wrote for Your Tango a few years ago about the magical habit you must break if you want a great relationship. Don't go far. We'll be back with more Soul CPR. Welcome back to Soul CPR. I'm Ann Papayoti, and you are listening to Bold Brave TV. An article I wrote for the online mega magazine Your Tango a few years back, and most recently refurbished in January of 2024, entitled The Magical Habit You Must Break If You Want a Great Relationship, allowed me to look deeper at the topic of magical thinking and apply it to romantic relationships. So let's take a deeper look together now. So we're talking about magical thinking can be a bit of a normal part of childhood development. So as a kid, think about it. You may have been told there were magic words like please and thank you. And when you use them, you got specific results, right? You learned how to magically elicit a positive response from another person just by uttering these charming words, right? You were also likely told mystical stories that led to your believing in the supernatural and wondrous feats of characters like the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus. And it was a fantastic, exciting, and magical world that you traveled to in your mind. And you adapted your behaviors to create the outcome you desired. And did you hear that? You adapted your behaviors to create the outcome you desired. You did specific things. You took action to be on the nice list instead of the naughty list, right? So, in the context of human behavior, magical thinking is defined as the belief that one's thoughts by themselves can bring about effects in the world. In the case of the tooth fairy, perhaps. Not just the please and the thank yous, but more complex systems that may include superstitions, a belief that one can wish their way into feeling something they may not feel or manifest an outcome that would not otherwise have occurred. But now, we're all grown up. Our magical thinking about love has likely been influenced by everything we've seen and heard and read, from Disney to the rom-coms to our favorite Nicholas Sparks style novels and movies, each with its own happy ending. Now, speaking of those Nicholas Sparks novels and movies, which is your favorite? Do you have one? The Notebook comes to my mind. I can still see the scene with Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams. It was a magical setting when they were on a beautiful lake in a rowboat surrounded by, I don't know, countless white geese. And then there was that kiss in the rain. Okay, if you've not seen that movie, put it on your watch list. But remember that it is just a movie. And there's an entire backstory to creating that magical scene, which is rather comical, actually, about the geese. It took a lot of effort to create magic on that screen and in those scenes. It also took a lot of effort in that storyline, if you listen to it carefully, for that couple to end up having the relationship that they had. Now, if you've been following this show, you likely know that I'm a bit of a science nerd, and I will always seek the science behind what I share with you. So, what does the science of psychology say about manifestation and magical thinking? To be sure, I referenced an article published in Psychology Today written by Janice Vilhauer, PhD, a psychologist in Los Angeles, the developer of future-directed therapy, FDT, and author of the best-selling book, Think Forward to Thrive. And according to Vilhauer, research in psychology has shown us that our thoughts significantly impact our emotions and behavior. And that's something that I talk about a lot, that our thoughts create our feelings and our emotions, and those drive our actions, what we do or don't do in life. She says that this idea is central to manifestation practices. If you believe something good will happen, you may behave in ways that will increase the likelihood of it happening. Santa Claus, right? If I'm on the good list, Santa Claus will bring me presents. Now, when we think about self-fulfilling prophecies occurring when our beliefs influence our actions in a way that makes those beliefs come true, right? That's self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're convinced that you'll ace a job interview, for example, you may enter it with more confidence, poise, and enthusiasm, which in turn is going to increase your chances of success. This isn't magic. It's psychology. And I would say by that same token, if you're convinced you're going to screw it up, you're going to enter with low confidence and weak posture, perhaps apathy, or what appears to the interviewer, disinterest. Now, Vilhauer also says that one of the most tangible aspects of manifestation is visualization. So, just like mentally rehearsing an outcome as if it has already occurred. And there's a lot of research in sports psychology proving visualization can enhance performance. Athletes frequently use visualization as a technique to mentally prepare for games and competitions. They see themselves succeeding in their goals before they even step onto the field or on the court or on the mat for gymnastics, whatever it is that they do. But is this all they do, visualization? Absolutely not. They also do what? They go to practice every day, right? They train their bodies. They commit to a healthy lifestyle, including what they eat, how they sleep, and more. They practice repeatedly the same 3-point shot on the court that they visualize making. There's the action that's missing in the secret for manifestation. Now, I love that there are studies that reveal that the brain doesn't always differentiate between actual physical actions and vividly imagined actions. So, when people visualize a specific goal, the brain activates similar neural networks as when they're actually performing the task. And this is where the science of manifestation intersects with psychological techniques like mental imagery. And that is why it is often used in specific healing therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy. And I know that I have clients when they're struggling with something, we will go and use a meditation or something, and we'll choose a happy place that they can go to and visit in their mind, whether it's the beach or the mountains or grandma's house, where they're now getting in touch with their five senses. And if it's grandma's house, what's the room that they're in that's comforting? What's the smell? The fresh baked cookies, all of the different senses, and bring that sensory connection. And that brings them into the present moment rather than being in that anxious state of worry and fear of the future, or in that state that has something to do with the past that has them also in either a fear-based or anxious state. So this is how mental imagery is very powerful. And again, we can bring ourselves in using these psychological techniques to help us heal. It's part of therapy because the brain can do that. So much of manifestation may sound like positive thinking. However, to manifest, positive thinking is not enough on its own. That hopeful outlook can definitely increase resilience and motivation and even overall well-being, improve our health. And why is that? It's because optimistic individuals tend to do what? They engage in behaviors that support their goals. They do the doing, they do the work. So positive thinking must be paired with practical action. So merely visualizing success without effort will not lead to meaningful results. So psychological research underscores the importance of effort and strategy in achieving goals. And that aligns more with something we've spoken about before on this show, which is the growth mindset model of Dr. Carol Dweck. And this concept emphasizes that progress comes from hard work and learning and adapting, and not just from belief alone. So when does manifestation actually become magical thinking? Again, it kind of gets blurred in there. When the belief that simply wishing for something can make it so without the effort. It's that simple. Not doing the doing, okay? Not taking the action. So it's the same thing in romantic love. The psychological science is clear that this kind of thinking can be harmful, we said, in certain ways, when it can become an anxiety-driven behavior. So if people believe that all they need to do is visualize a relationship or some kind of success, they may avoid the necessary steps to achieve those goals. Why can't I find love? That's what I hear. Moreover, manifestation as a practice, Dr. Vilhauer mentioned, might lead to blaming. So if we assume that our thoughts create reality alone, just our thoughts, it would follow that anyone who's struggling in life, whether it's from a relationship loss or it's from illness or any of those other things we talk about on the show, if they blame themselves for not having thought positively enough, This can be debilitating, wouldn't you imagine? It can be emotionally damaging, and it certainly minimizes and oversimplifies some very complex life challenges. So, back to magical thinking in relationships. When we come back, it's time for our second break. Don't go far. We'll be back with more Soul CPR. Hello, and thank you for tuning in again. We are back and we are talking about manifesting and magical thinking, and specifically when it comes to relationships. Now, as a coach, I help my clients untangle from their past and move forward into their best life. And in reflecting on your life, you may discover that you've had magical thinking about relationships and that it's been influenced by perhaps past emotional trauma and maybe even the need to control this area of your life. Now that we've talked a little bit about trying to understand the difference about manifesting and magical thinking. But if it's been about control, controlling how another human being thinks or feels and behaves truly is just an illusion. We can't do it. And generally speaking, it's what gets in our heads that holds us back in life. And when it comes to magical thinking and romantic relationships, the way you think can actually be hexing, if you will. So, from my article that was published in Your Tango, I listed 4 ways magical thinking sabotages potentially great relationships. So, let's look at those together. The first one that I like to talk about is that magical thinking is a barrier to finding true love. We all want someone to love and to be loved in return. However, a magical mindset will keep you from showing up as your authentic self. And what I mean by that is that magical thinking will block the opportunity for someone to know and love you for who you are. It prevents you from knowing them. Look, love is a real emotion, and there's no potion to create it. It comes from 2 real people with real character, flaws and all. So, casting a spell, if you will not make someone love you. There's no powerful incantation to manipulate or force love. So, all those bibbity bobbity doos in the world will not make someone your boo. So, let go of the pretend play and just be you. Oh my God, Dan, that was kind of catchy. It even rhymed. So you're welcome. The second thing that I talk about is that it undermines potentially great relationships with unrealistic expectations. Magical thinkers expect their romantic partners to have this magical gift of mind reading. Have you ever expected your partner to just know what you're thinking? Unspoken expectations going unmet create frustration and disappointment and resentfulness and restlessness in relationships. Your partner is left confused and possibly feeling like a failure. So, this magic carpet ride is not for the healthy mindset, and they will likely call it quits from the sheer nausea of this crazy ride that they're on with you. So, expectations turn potential, princes into frogs, and maybe frogs into princes. Their ongoing inability to fulfill your fantasy leaves you miserable, and them too. When you focus on an outcome dependent on the unforeseen future with a person that you can't control, even the potentially strongest of relationships will fail under the burden. When you know and can communicate what you truly desire in love, which I promise you is a deep connection that you were trying to seek when you couldn't show up as yourself, is going to vanish like a magician's assistant. Number 3, it thwarts the capacity to develop into something special. Magical thinking thwarts the capacity of what could have been possibly a really great relationship. Potential is an interesting concept because it implies that the energy is there, but it's just potential until movement occurs. Capacity is yet to be determined. So magical thinking can bar any gravitation toward one another that may have naturally occurred. One block to relationship development can be holding on to someone who may not even be suitable for you. This comes up in private sessions a lot. Holding on to the wrong person. Why? Lots of fears. Fear of being alone. People pleasing, not even realizing it. Just trying to fix it. Feeling like if I can take care of everything at work, why can't I fix this? So trying to make yourself right and capable. But when you hold on to the wrong person, you may miss out on the right one. It looks like, and that energy is somewhat of a desperation, and it's not enchanting when we think of magic. If anything, it's suffocating. And when you believe that you must be with someone all the time and expect them to fulfill all of your needs, you deny yourself a life of growth and balance. Attraction, mutual interests, and autonomy are essential ingredients in a healthy relationship recipe. And even if they were the right one, you wouldn't know it. If you hold on tight to someone, they're going to feel trapped. Someone with a healthy mindset about love will feel the need to break out, and presto, you are what? Alone again. The fourth thing in my list in this article about magical thinking in relationships is that it blocks rational and critical judgment. And yeah, that's actually part of love when you're making decisions about partners. Not to be confused with optimism, magical thinkers see what they wish to see and not what is. There's no discernment of who may be a good match based on reality and the natural progression of a healthy relationship. It's easy to become, complacent while you wish and wait for your dreams to come true. Wishing and waiting and wishing and waiting. You hear me? You feel me? When there's an expectation that something will happen in the future without your participation, without your taking actions, you rob yourself of learning how to communicate your needs, and you hide the opportunity for your partner to connect with you, to learn about you, to know you, to have the opportunity to be and to share in this relationship with you, to allow it to grow and develop. Magical thinking is not a relationship fix. Hoping for the outcome you desire is one thing, but trying to force it and being overrun with negative thoughts and feelings when it doesn't work out is another. Charlotte and I were talking about this last week. I believe it was after the show, but or it may have been during the show, but she said she's often found that she's trying to take a square peg and put it in a round hole, whether it was a romantic partner or even a friendship, because of that need to have connection. But in doing so, it had her attached to the wrong people and for long periods of time until they either left her or until she finally found a way out. So your partner may surprise you with an escape act because healthy reality-based relationships allow you to be yourself and motivate you to become the best version of yourself. And I don't care if these are friendships or romantic relationships, it's the same. Now, real love and great relationships require mutual and consistent effort, communication, commitment, and compromise. Write that down if you need to. Mutual and consistent effort, communication, commitment, and compromise. What do you hear in that? Relationships require action. They require work. They allow you to experience the natural highs and lows of life, but with security and support. You may hear people say relationships shouldn't be so hard. The relationship itself shouldn't be hard, but it does take effort. Someone wise once told me that fantasy and reality have only two things in common. One, they're both 7-letter words, and two, those two words both end in Y. So let's leave the magic to Disney and Vegas. There's no magic in finding true love. When people ask me, how do I find it? There's no magic, but there's something magical that happens when you let go of the fantasy and focus on reality. You have to allow yourself to experience genuine, stable, healthy, fulfilling relationship. You have to, if you've yet to have that, maybe consider professional guidance for overcoming whatever distorted your view of love and learn how to stop sabotaging your real relationship potential because you have it. Start building up your happiness and confidence in something you do have power over, which is your belief system. Know that a healthy, confident you will attract and maintain powerful love. You'll be able to discern and let go of those who are not a match, an energetic match is what I like to say. And let me add for my people who have learned a confusing definition of love. If you've learned that love hurts, or that love hits, or that love leaves, or that love belittles, that love is demeaning, that love has to be earned, or that love is conditional, you need to redefine love. It's not magical to define and seek love as respectful and kind and compassionate and caring and nurturing and exciting. It can be supportive and fun and adventurous, positive, safe, and warm. So when people ask me, how am I supposed to find love? How do I find love? I say, find yourself first and know and honor and love yourself and be active in your life. Go, do, be you. You will be in the places and doing the things that support and honor and nurture you. And while you're active in your own life, be open to meeting someone who's doing the same. And it may not be in the way that you would have expected. Sometimes it's the unfolding of life that's magical. It's time for our third and final break. Don't go far. We'll be back with more Soul CPR. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me today again for this 50th episode of Soul CPR Healing Out Loud. And we are in our closing segment. I just wanted to share this book with you that I do offer to some of my clients if I think it's appropriate for them. It's called If the Buddha Dated. I love it. A Handbook for Finding Love on a Spiritual Path by Charlotte Castle, Kasl. And I'm just going to read a quick excerpt from this. She says, I urge people who are bewildered about why they haven't attracted a lover to explore the negative messages they are transmitting. Many people have a litany of reasons why they haven't met anyone yet. I'm afraid of being hurt again. I pick out the wrong people. There are no good people out there. I'm too old, too young, too fat, too smart, too stupid, too poor, too rich, too opinionated, too passionate, too messed up, too evolved, too boring. She says, make a list of all your reasons and then remember they are just that, reasons, or maybe excuses. Listen to your ego protest and then imagine what kind of spaciousness would emerge if your internal Greek chorus would take an intermission, or if you would stop taking all these thoughts so seriously. People find lovers when they're afraid, when they're open, when they're happy, when they're sad, when they're sick, when they are well, when they're looking, when they're enjoying single life. To some degree, it's inexplicable why we meet someone at a given time. In the meantime, however, we can make a concerted effort to find a partner, but not be attached to the outcome. So my key takeaway for you today is that I believe when it's all about finding someone, finding love, there's a balance in letting go of the outcome, as she says, letting go while you're putting yourself out there and yet being open. And again, while you're putting yourself out there, there's the action. All right. Thank you again for your support leading into this 50th episode of Soul CPR Healing Out Loud. We wouldn't be here without you. I hope you will continue to join us and let us know what else you would like to hear from in this show. So as we can conclude this episode of Soul CPR Healing Out Loud, remember that healing is not a linear journey. It's a process of profound transformation. If today's episode resonated with you, please share the podcast with those who might need a lifeline of their own. Subscribe, rate, and leave a review to help us reach more hearts. You can connect with me at my website, skyviewcoaching.com, or on social media. You'll find me on Facebook at Skyview Coaching, at Ann Papayoti on Instagram, LinkedIn, and X. Viewers, you can scan my QR code. Dan has it there on the screen for me. And again, let me know your thoughts, your stories, topics you'd like to explore more in future episodes. And until next time, may you find strength in your vulnerability and courage in your journey. I thank you for listening. Breathe deeply, love openly, and live soulfully. Good day.
This has been Soul CPR with host Ann Papayoti. Breathe life back into your spirit with each episode, where she and special guests explore the relationships that hurt us and discover that healing can only begin with you. Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.